Hi everyone, it's Chenzo from Reality Art Pod, here to talk about The Traitors, Season 4, Episode 8, titled A Queen Never Comes Off Her Throne. Last week on The Traitors, after Jam Jam was dragged out of the Black Banquet, Reptile Rob led the charge to banish fellow traitor Lisa Rinna, justice for LFR. Before I dive in, I put a link in the description to my playlist to catch up on my previous recaps. If you like the content, consider liking and subscribing, and watching along on Peacock. But let's dive into it. Traitors Rob and Candace are in the turret, and Candace is still annoyed with Rob. Rob says he feels bad as a person, but as a player, he had to get rid of Lisa. Candace's plan is to play it cool, telling Rob she didn't want to vote for Lisa, so she threw out a throwaway vote on Rob. They're staring each other down. Enter Alan to a sub from Rob. Alan offers them a chance to murder a faithful or recruit. Rob tells Candace he doesn't want to recruit or vote out any more traitors. Candace says, well then don't piss them off. They agree to murder and consider their options. Steven, who no one suspects. Candace throws out Colton's name, but Rob doesn't want to turn on his friend. Candace suggests Natalie, who has a lot of heat on her. Surprisingly, they agree on who to murder, but Candace tells us she still is planning to serve her revenge cold to Rob. Rob tells us he just took out Candace's queen and she's running low on valuable pieces. Players file into breakfast the next day. Dorinda thought she was going to be murdered after Lisa's banishment, but she survived and continues to mourn her girly Lisa. Maura mentions to a few faithfuls that Candace's vote for Rob was unlike Candace, but Johnny defends her, saying Candace was just protecting a housewife. Johnny sees Candace as a close friend and can't imagine her being a traitor. Johnny is back on his Colton theory. Enter Candace, who tells us her goal today is to engineer chaos. Johnny asks Candace about her vote. Candace says she believed that Natalie was a faithful and didn't want to vote for Lisa if she didn't think Lisa was a traitor, but Maura is annoyed that Candace voted for Rob without saying she thought he was a traitor. Bring in the final batch of faithfuls, Steven, Rob, and Natalie, meaning Colton was murdered. Flashback to Candace pushing Colton's name and Rob kind of rolling over, not pushing back on this at all. When Colton finds out, he knows the traitor is Candace. So we lose Colton here, who starts off the game telling us he's going to play like a football player, saying he only knows how to play aggressively. At least he was self-aware, as he was constantly throwing out names and playing full tilt, leading the charge in multiple banishments. It's just so not the strategy if you want to win the Traitors. I get the desire to be different from everyone. We all want to be unique, but it was just too much attention, often negative, and I find him to be a toxic character. When he's on TV, then the stories of him stalking Cassie continue to swirl. At a certain point, a career in entertainment just isn't for you, and you should consider something else, like gardening. While most of his game was messy, I did enjoy the idea of holding a traitor hostage. That's the kind of idea you get after binge watching 12 seasons of Traitors. So I appreciate the innovation there, but it wasn't successful. I'd love to see a better player try the same tactic. Candace is proud of herself for taking Colton out. She feels Rob was using Colton to get her friends out of the game. Rob tells us he let Candace murder Colton because Colton was after Candace, and it will point the faithfuls back at her. Enter Alan in a flowery suit, blue highlights to match his socks, and paintbrushes in his pocket, because today we're getting artistic. Players cheers to Colton. Rob is acting miserable and frazzledly dropped his fork, which Candace takes note of. Best dressed at breakfast, I'm gonna give it to Kristen. Kristen has been consistently bringing good looks this season. This is crisp, fashion forward, but refined. The perfectly tailored suit, the turtleneck, a chunky heel. We love a big chunky heel, don't we? Players disperse around the castle. They don't know what to think. Kristen is second guessing everything besides her outfit. Johnny does a body roll that Candace loves. Johnny and Tara are suspecting Natalie and Steven, but Tara says she's so bad at this, telling us she has no idea how she's still there, and she knows she's wrong about everything. Outside, Steven's plan is to cozy up to Rob and use Rob's extra dagger vote to his advantage. Natalie tells the group that Eric is likely cleared as faithful because he voted for Lisa the first day. Rob tells Steven, Eric, Natalie, and Mark that Colton's last words to him were that Candace is a traitor. In the kitchen, Candace brings up to Kristen and Johnny that Rob was flustered at breakfast and dropped his fork, and it's not like Rob to be flustered. They head to their challenge where Lala is just chilling. Can I pet that dog? Alan has added a pink beret to his look for warmth. Players split into groups, with one team going to the castle and one team going to the gallery. Only players who go to the gallery will get a chance at a shield. The castle team will get descriptions of paintings that are in the gallery. They'll have to stage that description, acting it out, and send a photo to the players in the gallery. The gallery players will try to find the painting that the castle teams are trying to recreate. For each correct painting, they'll get $3,000. Rob, Kristen, and Mark are going to the gallery. They get started, and this is a lot of fun. Johnny is a cow wearing Candace's coat as Candace milks him. This was cinema. Steven even makes udders. Maura and Dorinda are cows too. The gallery players instantly think Dorinda's a cow. I don't know how, but somehow they think Johnny is a horse. Kristen finds the shield in a painting. It's a good day to be Kristen. I am very upset they thought Candace was milking a horse. Tara is having a great time in this challenge. The sub-team of Maura, Dorinda, Tara, and Natalie are very good at this, especially the one where Tara is creeping over the wall. But Candace, Eric, Johnny, and Steven get multiple wrong, though Eric, as this crying baby, was truly a work of art the gallery could not deny. In the end, the group gets 4 of 6 paintings right, winning $12,000 $1,000 for the pot, bringing their total to $150,800. Alan also reveals that someone in the gallery won a shield, but not who. Back in the castle, Mora and Natalie agree. They want to target Candace. Eric mentions Candace to Johnny, but Johnny remembers that Colton was plotting against Steven before his murder and brings that up to Eric. Confused Eric is trying to figure out how he can avenge Colton's murder. Johnny warns Candace that there's heat coming her way, which she appreciates. In the study, Dorinda agrees that Candace and Steven are suspects. Dorinda points out that Lisa gave her gold to Steven in the last challenge, which makes Dorinda feel Lisa and Steven were working in cahoots. Candace and Steven ask Dorinda to excuse them to talk, which makes them look sus. Steven tells Candace that Colton was saying her name. Candace tells Steven she feels that Rob was puppeteering Colton. Enter Rob, walking in on them talking about him. It's very awkward. Rob asks Steven to leave. Candace confronts Rob about her name coming up. Rob tells Candace he's not going to target her at the round table, but Candace is convinced that Rob is coming for her. Candace tells Rob that he must have known that Colton was saying Candace's name, which would explain him being so okay with murdering Colton. Candace is stewing. Rob says she's taking it personally, and she calls him a snake, promising him that if she gets banished, she's going to bring him down with her. He says it's bad sportsmanship. She does not care. Candace tells us she's not bothered by this because a queen never comes off her throne. Oops, she said the thing. Heading to the round table, Rob tells us his plan is to stay calm and let Candace blow her own game up. At the round table, Alan lets them get started. Candace is staring Rob down. Johnny gets the conversation going, bringing up that Colton brought Steven's name up before he was killed. Steven asks if anyone else heard that from Colton. No one did. Dorinda chimes in, bringing up that Lisa gave her gold to Steven in the challenge. He says he just asked her for the gold and she gave it to him. Eric points back at Candace, saying she's been consistently voting through the game until the last round. Candace again makes the same points, that she didn't have enough evidence to vote for Lisa and did a throwaway vote. Candace reminds them that there was a consensus vote for Natalie coming into the last round table. Natalie asks who started that movement. Candace blames Tara, but Tara says it was a group decision. Then Candace brings up that Rob was nervous at breakfast and dropped his fork. Rob says he was upset because his friend was killed, and he's dropped many forks in his life. Mora asks Candace why her throwaway vote for Rob has become a real vote. Candace blames the fork, and Candace also says that Rob brought Lisa's name to Candace when she'd never heard it. Then suddenly Colton started saying Lisa's name, so Candace is accusing Rob of manipulating Colton. And the time for talk is over. Rob decides not to use his dagger to get an extra vote, and the group gets to voting. There's one vote for Rob from Candace, one vote for Tara from Natalie, and the rest of the votes are for Candace. So Candace is banished with one final opportunity to speak to the group. She gets emotional, but reveals she's a traitor. Another big win for the faithfuls. Rob picks Mora and Eric up at the same time. So we lose Candace, who I wasn't that hyped up about on the cast at first. As I said, I was Team Monique in their beef, but I'm so happy she was cast. She gained a fan in me. She had a decent mind for strategy, voting smartly for the first few rounds. No one was onto her in the beginning, even after the conga line and other attention-grabbing moments that I thought would make her look sus. But Rob turning on Lisa shook Candace, and rightfully so. If he did it to Lisa, it was only a matter of time. He did it to her too. The Candace versus Rob matchup was a pretty fair fight, but this time he just outplayed her when he set her up in the Colton murder. Whether she was a traitor or faithful, she was gonna have big moments and messy moments. Being a traitor forced her to be more restrained. If she were faithful, I think she would have been making more accusations, which would have been fun too. I'll definitely be watching the upcoming Ultimate Girls trip that she's on, as this is someone who should be on television. Following Candace's banishment, Rob is the last traitor standing. He's trying to dismiss her claims, but feels the 2 votes from Candace will come back to bite him. Johnny is very upset that his friend was a traitor, which is starting to make him look guilty for helping her. Kristen tells Eric there is no way that Rob is a traitor. Mora brings up Johnny's name to Tara and Natalie. Maybe not the right audience to comfort Johnny to his bestie Tara. Rob heads to the turret alone, saying finally some peace and quiet. Alan joins him, calling Rob the Slayer of the Housewives, which Rob likes. Alan tells Rob he has to recruit. He'll pick one faithful to give a choice, join him or die. Not much of a choice. Later tonight, they'll murder together. Rob is considering recruiting Johnny to throw Johnny under the bus, or recruit a partner in crime like Eric or Mark. Rob chose to recruit Eric, so Eric gets his letter, being told to meet the traitors. Not knowing yet what's going on, he thinks this handwriting is Johnny's. Yes, Johnny, who's dressed to the nines in lace gloves, has the handwriting of a second grader who doesn't yet know his dominant hand. So that's where we end the episode. I have thoughts. After Colton's banishment, the game has opened up for the other players to have a moment to shine. Players like Kristen and Tara finally getting screen time, now that really all of the loud people are gone. I'm looking forward to the rest of the season being heavy on gameplay, maybe not so heavy on entertainment. So much of this episode was Rob against Candace. Rob really set a trap. I'm surprised he let Colton go. That was savage, but helped to take some heat off Rob. Why would he murder his best friend and closest ally? The banishment vote was very straightforward, though the vote from Natalie for Tara was a random shot that wasn't wasn't necessary. Natalie's playing her own game of win immunity and vote for who you don't like, which has gotten her this far. Everyone wants to be different. I'm mostly interested in this recruitment, getting a different traitor in the mix. I'd predicted Eric as one of the original traitors, so I'm happy to see him play the part. I thought Rob would recruit Mora, but she wasn't even a consideration. Together, they'll have to murder, and I'm mostly worried for Dorinda at this point, where 2 housewife traitors were just caught. There's no way there's 3, so there's just no benefit in keeping Dorinda around anymore for these 2 players. Then they'll be in the top 9. Rob and Eric are allies. They have a bit of a squad. If they don't have the numbers already to run the game, this is the perfect time to use the dagger. Make sure you have the majority and run the game through to the end. So my prediction for next week, Dorinda murdered, Johnny banished. Last episode, I left off thinking Faithful advantage. The Faithful are a mess. Advantage goes back to Traitors for me. But let's ask the audience, what did you think of this episode? I know you'll let me know in the comments your thoughts on Colton's murder and Candace's banishment. What did you think of Eric's recruitment? And who do you think is winning at this point, the Traitors or the Faithfuls? If you like this video, consider liking and subscribing. I'll be back next week with more Traitors. Until then, you know where to find me. Bye.